Lily despised her husband, as there had never been a moment when she did not resent him for constantly pushing her away. But Lily was crying over her husband's lifeless body. She told herself inwardly that she never wished for his death, nor could she ever wish for his unhappiness or suffering either. As she wept over his body, her tears washed away the resentment, hatred, and sorrow that had consumed her for so long. Beneath the pillars of grief, only pure emotion remained, unshaken and unfaded. It was love. Love she had carefully buried within herself. Love that surfaced as she lay over Theodore's body, her husband. This was the story of how Lily came to realize that the love she once thought she had killed off had never truly disappeared, but had been there all along, waiting for her to allow herself to feel it. Lily Everett had first met Theodore Valentino 2 years earlier, when her father declared to her that she would have to marry Duke Valentino. Lily had been shocked at his words. She thought at first that her father had finally gone mad, but then reminded herself that there was no reason to be surprised, as her father had abandoned his humanity long ago. The Valentino family, the ducal house that had protected the North since the founding of the Frenzy Kingdom for generations, was a name spoken with both respect and fear. Its family heads had forged contracts with powerful spirits, but their foundation had been weakened over the past decade due to the strange rifts appearing within their domain. These rifts had claimed the lives of the previous Duke and Duchess, as well as their heir, Camille Valentino. Now, only Camille's younger brother, Theodore Valentino, remained to continue the line. Yet even he stood, desperate for support from other noble families, but surrounded by forces that sought to weaken him further. And at the center of these forces was Lily's family, the House of Everett. Lily thought bitterly that it was possible even the rifts plaguing the Valentino lands had been the work of her own family. How could her father then even think of marrying her, an Everett, to Theodore Valentino, who was already a victim? Her father explained coldly that Duke Valentino had always been a man difficult to manipulate, yet now, in his desperation, he was vulnerable. Through this marriage, the Valentinos would receive financial support from the Everetts, and in return, the Everetts would gain the chance to eventually swallow up the Valentino estate. Her father then added that Theodore might resist at first, but he would eventually submit to her. He told her that from that very day she would begin bridal lessons, ordering her that she should at least be capable of that much, no matter how incompetent she was. Lily obediently agreed, and he dismissed her with a brief word of approval. As she left the room, later, while Lily was taking her class, a low whisper came from behind, mocking her that even someone like her had her usage. When Lily turned back, the man stated that wasn't Duke Valentino, rumored to be tall and handsome, clearly out of her league. It was Hessen Everett, the second son of the Everett house. He provoked her cruelly, saying she was lucky this time, wasn't she? When Lily did not respond, Hessen sneered, asking if she was ignoring him. She replied calmly that she had nothing to say to him. Her indifference enraged him. Hessen shouted, demanding how she dared ignore him when she was not even a true Everett. In anger, he charged toward her with scissors in his hand, throwing them down near her feet. He then spat that she must not think anything would change simply because she would become Duchess of Valentino. To him, she would still the same incompetent and foolish Lily, even within their household walls. An attendant rushed forward, picked up the scissors, and offered them to her politely. Lily thanked her, realizing that this woman must be new, as most attendants never showed her kindness. She thought grimly that soon enough, this woman too would end up like the others. Lily then apologized to her teacher and asked if they should resume the tapestry the following day. The teacher agreed, saying it would be best that way. As Lily left, she crossed paths with the eldest son of House Everett, Owen Everett, and Lord Leno. Lily greeted them gently. Leno replied in gently manner that she need not call him Lord Leno, as he wished she would call him brother. He then complimented her by saying that she had grown prettier day by day. Lily thought inwardly that he was a shameless madman. If she could, she would have cut out his tongue. At that moment, her eldest brother, Owen, joined them. He remarked that he had heard their father's decision to marry her off to Duke Valentino. Lily replied that it was true and she had just returned from her bridal lessons. Owen smirked, saying Valentino had always been the Theodoran in their family side. It would be a great benefit if she married him and managed to put a leash around his neck. He added that he hoped she would finally prove herself useful this time. Lily thought inwardly that she had long known her place in that household. To them, she was nothing more than a tool, a possession to be used and discarded. Flashbacks of her past filled her mind, being called filthy, worthless, told she must produce results and prove her worth as a return on her father's so-called investment. This had begun after Duchess Everett passed away many years earlier. Duke Everett had needed a daughter to strengthen ties with other houses, but he refused to waste resources on a mistress or a second second wife. So, instead of having an illegitimate child, he had chosen to adopt one. That child had been Lily Everett, a low-born girl with silver hair and a face considered decent enough for his purpose. Her mother had been a maid, her father unknown. As these thoughts weighed on her, Leno tapped her shoulder, saying she should not worry too much. Even if the marriage with Duke Valentino failed, he would marry her himself. The boldness of his words stunned her, but she responded helplessly, thanking him for the sentiment and hurried away to her room. Inside, she shut the door firmly and sank down. Her mind circled around the same desperate questions. When would she escape this house of torment? Would Duke Valentino truly agree to marry her? If she became his wife and left the Everett estate behind, could she ever find happiness? Lily doubted it deeply. House Everett had always clawed at wealth and power by any means necessary, while House Valentino was a family that clung to justice and honor. The two families had been at odds for generations, their feud staining the kingdom with immeasurable blood and countless corpses. She'd told herself there was no way Theodore Valentino could ever think well of her, yet a faint voice inside whispered otherwise. She had endured this living hell for over a decade, never once giving up, not because she had courage, but because she had never dared to take her own life. What had kept her alive was a fragile hope that one day someone, anyone, might extend a hand and pull her out. And so, the next morning, Theodore Valentino himself arrived at the Everett mansion. The next morning, Lily was thinking about Theodore as she was genuinely curious about him. What kind of person he was, as she had never got a chance to see him in person, not even at the debut ball. She had heard rumors, but she wondered what he really was like. Was he as wonderful and impressive as people said? Lily thought that if it was so, while others were gossiping about what Lily was wearing, then Lily thought to herself that she definitely was not a match for his, as she was wearing a quite sexy dress while walking down the hall. Even Hessen yelled at her, calling her insane, as she had dressed like that, and further stated if she really thought her looks would work on that frigid bastard, Theodore Dada. Lily realized then she understood why her father was so concerned about her today. He wanted her to use every advantage she had as Lily Everett. Lily thought how ridiculous that is. Then, with a smiling face, she replied to Hessen what did he think if she was enchanting. And further, even he must think she must have outdone herself. She must have outdone herself, which infuriated Hessen, and he yelled at her, saying she must have lost her mind and she should go to her room and should dress like a normal person. Then Lily replied father had ordered her to go out to the garden dressed like that, stressed like that. She walked away, saying to him if he had a problem with it, he should go and pursue father himself, which fueled Hessen's anger. As Lily walked away into the garden, she felt chilly and thought she should have worn a shawl. Lily thought if her father really believed Theodore Valentino would fall for her because of her looks. Then she heard someone discussing something. It was coming from another direction, and the person suggested to the other he should take some rest. It was no one other than Theodore Valentino. As Lily looked at him, she was stunned by the handsomeness of Theodore and realized the man Duke Valentino, the man her father wanted her to marry, was him. As Theodore told his subordinate that he didn't need to rest, he must head straight to the naval base and he would accompany him, and called him Carmen. And Carmen agreed to it. As Theodore looked back, he saw Lily. He then had eye contact with Lily. As they both looked at each other, there was an awkward silence between them. Lily thought he must seem to be studying her actions and things. Then, Lily realized it must be because of how she was dressed. Then Theodore got close to Lily and said if she was cold. Lily, shocked, asked pardon. Then Theodore put his coat over Lily and they looked at each other. And Theodore realized silver hair and peridot-colored eyes. She must be Lily Everett. And Theodore said to her, she didn't seem dressed to go out on a walk like that. It made her blush. Then Theodore said to his subordinate Carmen they should leave, and he agreed while looking at Lily as they got into the cart and departed. Lily looked after them. Then late at night, Hessen said congratulations to Lily as the Duke had finally accepted the marriage proposal, and her little plan with father must have worked out. This surprised Lily as she was having tea. Then Hessen arrogantly stated it was too bad, though, as he must probably want to strangle her on their wedding night. Lily thought, just as she expected, father must have pressured Theodore Valentino into accepting the marriage, as the current king lacked the power to keep the nobility in check, and the houses which could aid the king, Delacroix and Albinice, were already under her father's supervision, so Theodore probably had no other choice. Then Hessen said the Duke must have thought it better to marry her and get help from House Everett than risk being reduced to nothing because of the rifts, and he added Theodora Valentino. He was starting to feel sorry for him, and Hessen declared him a poor guy for being forced to do this. Then Hessen said, but did she really think he would do as father wished? Then he revealed to her once the situation stabilized and Theodore regained his power, he might just get rid of her first. And Hessen said she would be dropped dead any day. This didn't faze Lily, much as she recalled recalled their interaction. As she was thinking, then suddenly Hessen got up and said, "Why? Didn't she just beg him?" Lily looked at him with dead eyes. While Hessen was glaring at Lily, Lily inquired, what was he talking about? Then Hessen grabbed her by the collar and yelled at her she shouldn't get coy, and as he had stated previously, she should beg him, as she should beg him to save her from this marriage, and she should say she didn't want to die in vain, and should beg him to spare her life. Suddenly, someone slammed the door. Both Lily and Hessen looked at the door. It was their eldest brother, Owen. He asked Hessen to let Lily go and leave her. Then Hessen asked what brought him here, referring to him as esteemed brother. Was he there to put a leash on idiot Lily? Owen replied he had something to discuss with Lily, and so he should leave them. Hessen replied why should he do it with him there? Then Owen threatened Hessen by saying must he physically remove him, he should leave, while he was saying it nicely. Hessen stated aggressively, as he had already mentioned, won't leave, and was he deaf? And further stated he wanted to hear what he had to say to that vixen, and further added why couldn't he stay? Was there something he shouldn't hear? Owen unleashed his power and grabbed Hessen's hand and said this would be his last warning. Hessen pulled his hand back and said to Lily they would talk later. As he slammed the door, Owen sat in front of Lily and called her. Lily replied yes, referring to him as brother, and then he said he didn't expect much from her, but she should try her best to seduce Theodore Valentino, as his role was important if they were to fully subjugate him to the house Everett. Lily replied she would keep it in mind, and Owen further added she shouldn't forget even if she was married to him, she would still be his. This shocked Lily. Then he moved his hand forward toward Lily and stated, Lily Everett would belong to the Everett family in life and death, and she shouldn't forget it. Lily was scared and said yes. Owen reminded her that she wouldn't forget it. Owen called her a good girl and told her she should sleep, and took off by saying she should sleep tight. As the door closed and he left Lily in the dark room. In this era, aristocratic marriages were forms of trade and contract. The former Duke Valentino had intended to enter into a political marriage with the House of Abinis, but he had fallen in love with the eldest daughter of a humble viscount and married her instead. As a result, the assets gained by House Valentino through marriage were minimal. Needless to say, their military power also weakened. They found themselves at a significant disadvantage compared to other noble houses that had expanded their wealth and power through strategic marriages. This was how House Valentino found itself on the brink of collapse in this generation. Hessen then said further that, in short, Lily was only marrying him thanks to pure luck. While Lily dressed brightly, Hessen remarked that if the Valentino family weren't in such a financial crisis, someone like Lily would not stand a chance of marrying into the Valentino family. Lily gazed back at Hessen and said she knew that, which irritated Hessen. Then Lily got up and called Hessen, saying to him she should let him in on one of her little secrets. As Lily got close to Hessen, Lily smiled at him, which made Hessen blush as his heart pounded. Then Lily said she would never, ever ask for his help. This stunned Hessen. As Lily walked away, she stated she was sick of both him and Owen, and she wished both of them would die. This shocked Hessen, who was baffled in the moment. As Lily walked in the marriage hall with flowers in her hands, she found her father standing on the stage. He said to her she looked beautiful and congratulated her. Lily thanked him and said it was all because of her father. Lily inwardly thought her father must be thrilled having sold her off at such a high price. The music that signaled the bride's entrance occurred. The petals fluttered in the air in celebration, and all of this felt like a ridiculous play to Lily. And then she questioned inwardly if Theodore also felt the same way. He was standing in front of Lily as the marriage proceeded, and the Pope declared to the guests they had gathered there today to witness the sacred union of two individuals, and declared Theodore Valentino and Lily Everett would become husband and wife from that day. At night, Lily sat on the bed, wondering. The Duke had informed her through a maid that the coat he gave her was stained, and she was welcome to rip it or burn it or do whatever else she saw fit. Lily thought she wasn't surprised by him, as she was the hateful daughter of the Everett family, and she didn't hate or resent him. For her, it was best not to grow fond of Theodore and maintain distance. But Lily questioned herself why her heart raced when she saw Theodore in the garden that day. Lily tells herself that it was just a temporary phenomenon. Then suddenly, Lily heard someone entering the room. It was Theodore in a gown, revealing his upper muscular body, which flustered Lily. Theodore poured wine into his cup and took a sip, smiling while looking at Lily. Lily was stunned. Then suddenly, Theodore pulled Lily and kissed her. He poured his wine into Lily's mouth and grabbed her hand. Lily told him to stop. Lily thought it wasn't like she was expecting an affectionate wedding night with the relationship they had, and then Lily stated to him to do as he wished. Theodore looked at Lily, pushed her down on the bed, and stated she could do as he wished, or was she the one that wanted him to do that? As Theodore licked Lily's neck, Lily replied no, she didn't want it as she resisted. Theodore bit her on the neck. Lily, meanwhile, was feeling strange, but she was expecting it as there was no reason for him to be kind to her. Then, suddenly, Lily and Theodore had eye contact, and momentarily they were both lost in thought as Lily tried to touch Theodore's face as she realized the pain in his eyes. But Theodore pulled her hand away and looked disturbed, saying that should be enough to make her father not suspect anything. And then he got scissors and made a cut, stating if they did this, her father would be even less suspicious of them. Theodore stabbed his hand with the scissors, stating that if they did this, her father would be even less suspicious, as blood dripped onto the bed sheets, frightening Lily. Theodore remarked that he didn't see why they had to sleep with each other when neither of them wanted to, throwing away the entire charade. He added that her family could use him as much as they wanted, but he would not stand by silently and do nothing. Once the marriage lost all meaning, they would proceed with a clean divorce. Until then, they would remain husband and wife in name only, ready to separate at any moment without hesitation. Afterwards, at the bed, Lily thought she might have sensed long ago that her happiness would be limited only to this unwanted marriage. When their eyes first met, it had felt as though an invisible arrow pierced through her, leaving a scar she did not know how to heal. After some days, a carriage was prepared to travel toward the Valentino domain. Lily looked out the window as the wheels rattled across broken homes. She witnessed scenes of blood, destruction, and poverty all over the town. People were suffering, children cried for food, and corpses were left unattended in corners of the street. She felt nauseous, realizing this was the first time she had seen such misery with her own eyes. The Everetts were the cause of this chaos, and the guilt churned inside her stomach. As the sickness grew worse, her servant anxiously asked if she was all right. Suddenly, the carriage door burst open. Theodore stepped in quickly, stating that he had come to check on her because he heard a loud noise. He remarked that the sight outside must undoubtedly be unsettling for the esteemed Lady Everett, as they were not far from the urban area. He urged her to bear with it a little longer and avoid looking out of the window if she could. As Lily tried to insist she was fine, Theodore slammed the door shut again. Lily muttered that it was all right and told the servant to sit properly in her seat, for which the servant quietly affirmed. Lily realized she felt strangely awkward, yet also relieved Charlotte had come along with her. None of the other attendants at the Everett Manor had wanted to follow her. Charlotte had begged her to allow her to come, saying that no matter what happened, she would stay by her side. Lily thought bitterly that it was a path of Theodorans ahead for anyone who followed her, and perhaps she shouldn't have brought Charlotte with her at all. As Charlotte softly reminded her that the Duke had seemed very concerned, as he had immediately noticed a sound inside the carriage and rushed in to check on her, Lily let out a faint chuckle at the remark. After some time, they reached the Valentino estate. Theodore opened the carriage door and carried Lily out, stating that they had arrived and she could step out now. As Lily placed her hand upon his, she stumbled slightly on the step, falling into his arms. For a moment, they were pressed close to each other, their faces nearly touching. Suddenly, a voice called out, breaking the moment and welcoming them warmly. It was none other than Madame Seymour. Seymour, the younger sister of Theodore's late mother, had remained unmarried well into her 40s. She had taken care of Theodore for most of his life and assumed the role of matriarch in the family, most likely due to the former Duchess Valentino's dying wish that she stay by her son's side and protect him. Seymour greeted Lily with a polite smile, welcoming her as a new member of the Valentino family. Lily affirmed respectfully, replying that she looked forward to getting to know her. Seymour then gestured for Lily to come inside, for which Lily gave a soft nod while glancing toward Theodore. He gave her a brief glance in return before turning away. After she was shown inside, a servant led her to her chambers. The servant explained that this would be her room, and if she required anything, she could pull the bell cord by the bedside table. The servant asked if she had any requests, but Lily shook her head gently and replied it was fine, she needed nothing, and the servant could leave. As Lily sat down on the bed, she thought about how a typical married couple lived together and how different her situation was. It was clear things would be challenging. She asked herself silently where her life had gone wrong. Was it when her mother, once a simple maid, had spent a single night with a drifter and conceived her, never knowing that the man would disappear without even leaving his name? Her mother had lived as if dead, and Lily now seemed to carry the same fate. She told herself she would expect nothing, demand nothing, and whenever emotions tried to form, she would suppress them mercilessly. Afterwards, a banquet was held in her honor. Lily thought that a few days had already passed since her arrival. She glanced at Theodore across her, silently questioning if he hated her so much that he wouldn't even look in her direction. She reminded herself that this grand welcome banquet was being hosted only to appease the Everetts. Suddenly, Theodore's voice echoed across the table. He addressed her coldly, remarking that the food did not seem to be to her liking. He then made one thing clear to everyone present. He asked her to refrain from addressing him informally as if they were close, for he had no intention of taking this marriage to the grave. He assumed she felt the same, and therefore, he urged that they should not waste unnecessary emotions on one another. Lily listened carefully, then affirmed quietly, agreeing to his words. Theodore scoffed, telling her it was good she understood, and downed his wine with a bitter laugh. Later, as Lily excused herself, Charlotte hurried toward her, concerned. She whispered that she was shocked to see her out there and asked if she was all right. Lily replied that the party had been more stressful than she had anticipated. Charlotte agreed, saying her mistress must be exhausted, and explained that the bath was already being prepared if she would just wait a little longer. As Charlotte lifted her hand, Lily noticed it was covered with bruises. Lily's anger flared. She frowned and demanded to know what had happened. Seeing her mistress's reaction, Charlotte hesitated, her lips trembling. Lily asked again firmly if she was unwell. Then she leaned closer and asked in a sharper tone if the attendants of the Valentino castle had been bullying her. Charlotte lowered her head, and her silence gave Lily the answer she feared. Charlotte was quite shocked when Lily pointed out her injuries. She tried to dismiss it quickly, settling to say that she was fine and insisting that she could handle all the work on her own. She explained that she did not want anyone to speak ill of her or cause trouble over something so trivial. She pleaded with Lily not to worry, smiling brightly and assuring her that she was a tough person who could endure far worse. Yet Lily remained unconvinced. She affirmed firmly that Charlotte was being bullied, but Charlotte continued to deny it, saying repeatedly that she was really all right. Lily looked at her with sadness, saying that she understood the real reason Charlotte tried to hide it. The house was already full of people who hated her, and causing further trouble by complaining would only worsen her situation. As Charlotte lowered her eyes in guilt, she apologized softly, but Lily interrupted, asking why she was the one saying sorry. In truth, Lily felt she should be the one apologizing. Charlotte shook her head quickly and denied it, saying it was not true. She insisted that Lily should not blame herself, because the only reason she was being treated this way was that she was an orphan. Lily called her name with concern, then questioned if Charlotte wanted to go back to House Everett. Charlotte's head shot up at the sudden question, her eyes wide. She cried out, asking why Lily would suddenly ask such a thing. Through her trembling voice, she declared that she liked being with her. Even if she went back, there was no one in House Everett to welcome her, as she truly had no one left in this world. Upon hearing those words, Lily realized the depth of Charlotte's loyalty. She understood then that just as she found comfort by keeping Charlotte at her side, Charlotte too found comfort in her presence. They were like two wounded animals, licking each other's wounds to ease the pain of survival. Lily pulled her into a tight embrace, affirming that she understood. She told her tenderly that she cared deeply for her, and if she had her feelings hurt even slightly, it was no issue compared to the bond they shared. The next morning, Lily awoke with determination. She ordered for the 2 attendants and 3 maids assigned to her personal service to be brought before her. The command shocked the butler, but soon the maids gathered in front of her, shifting uneasily under her gaze. Lily's eyes fell on Laura, the head among them, and she questioned why they had not been properly assisting Charlotte. Her voice was cold as she asked if they had deliberately neglected their duties. She added sharply that bullying her personal maid was nothing but childish and undignified. Laura immediately bowed her head and defended herself, saying that they had no time. She explained that everyone in the castle was constantly busy due to the poor conditions of the Valentino domain. Apologizing, she added that it was common for one person to perform the duties of 2, sometimes even more, and Charlotte had simply been caught in the chaos. Lily's anger rose at the explanation. She thought bitterly that Laura was trying to lecture her as though she were ignorant, regardless of her background. Regardless of whether she was the true daughter of House Everett or not, right now she was the Duchess of Valentino. The staff needed to understand this clearly. She thought that if they disregarded the hierarchy of the house, they must be taught to show respect. With a steady voice, Lily declared that if she was lacking as the lady of the house, then she would gladly accept instruction, but her teacher should be her husband, or an elder member of the family, not her subordinates. Her words made Laura flinch, and silence fell across the room. Suddenly, a voice interrupted, asking what was going on. Seymour entered, her eyes sharp as they swept across the room. She ordered the butler to explain the matter. The butler leaned in and whispered into her ear, after which Seymour called out Laura's name. Seymour remarked that although the maids had been busy, they should nevertheless fulfill their responsibilities without excuse. The maids bowed and apologized, and Seymour dismissed them with a reminder that they must obey orders without complaint from now on. She turned toward Lily and explained that she had disciplined the girls, so Lily need not be upset anymore. From this point forward, she assured her, they would cause no problem. But Lily could see the subtle message beneath Annabella's words. She felt as though Seymour was reminding her of her great influence in the house, implying that Lily herself was powerless. Suppressing her frustration, Lily replied calmly that if the attendants properly assisted Charlotte, she would raise no further concerns. Seymour then remarked that it was unfortunate Lily had married during such a challenging time, acknowledging that she must have had trouble adjusting to her new surroundings. Lily forced a polite smile and replied that she would try her best to adjust quickly. Annabella's eyes narrowed, but her smile did not waver. She then suggested that Lily should go out and personally inspect the domain. Lily immediately understood the intent. Seymour wanted to humiliate her in front of the people. Clenching her fists in anger, she thought of how tiresome Seymour and her constant rumors had become. Her heart began to race as countless doubts swirled in her mind. She wanted to give up, to shut herself away and refuse to be dragged into this place's politics. She thought bitterly of what would happen to Charlotte if she died. The idea was both childish and frightening. Yet Lily straightened her posture and fixed her expression into a calm smile. She affirmed that she would make the necessary preparations and do so soon. Seymour twitched slightly at the confidence in her tone, but she affirmed her words and let the matter end. Lily excused herself politely, thanking Seymour for the concern before stepping away. Her heartbeat quickened as she left the hall, but she did not let it show. Later, as Lily's carriage departed for the domain inspection, Theodora's gaze lingered on it briefly. When she arrived at the plaza, soldiers guided her down to where the townspeople had gathered. As expected, the situation was dire. The greatest problem was the shortage of food. Despite choosing her most modest outfit, it was still made of fine silk, and the luxurious fabric stood out like an insult among the starving crowd. She felt the weight of their stares as food was distributed. Suddenly, a handful of soil struck her across her head. A man's voice rang out, calling her a witch and denouncing her as a filthy Everett. Soldiers rushed to her side, shielding her and apprehending the man. He screamed violently, declaring that he would kill the witch even if it cost him his life. He cursed House Everett, shouting that her father and her demonic brothers would be cursed forever, and that the family would one day pay for their countless sins. Lily stood frozen, her heart pounding. Fear coursed through her as she realized that everyone around her resented her existence. She had done nothing to them except extend food with her own hands, yet their hatred boiled over at the sight of her. This was all because she bore the name of Everett. Duke Everett was not even her real father, yet she could see clearly in the people's eyes the words they longed to spit at her, that she is one of them. In that moment, she understood with painful clarity that no one here was on her side. They all despised her. Chapter 6. After reaching out to the castle, Charlotte questioned Lily, asking if she was all right, to which, with brazen eyes, Lily affirmed that she was all right. Charlotte questioned why she did not have some warm milk before bread, as she had been skipping too many meals lately and he was worried, for which Lily affirmed that she was fine and that she would start eating well from tomorrow and not to worry, as she promised. Charlotte asked her to promise that she would really need to eat well from tomorrow, for which Lily affirmed. She departed while Lily took a sigh, reminiscing about the horrendous scene. She thought that even if she wanted to help them proactively, it would only be insulting and hypocritical. But doing nothing was not an option either, and she had no choice but to find a way. As she opened her treasure box, with many rubies in there, she thought that she would sell all but a few of the jewels she brought with her when she got married. Father gave them to her as wedding gifts, but she doubted he would care what she did with them. These were valuable jewels and should fetch a good amount of gold. Typically, she would give this money to an official to manage the domain, but people might criticize her for not knowing any place and acting like a hypocrite. On top of that, if she sold her jewels after being married for less than a week, it might seem like she was belittling the Duke. In the end, the only way to put the money to good use was another way. As she went out to fetch another accessory, realizing that it was a magic one, she recalled the person stating to use this if she ever needed to investigate the Valentino family, secretly, as this magic item would allow her to change her appearance into what was in her mind. Lily thought that she never thought that lunatic's tricks would come in handy. With this, she could transform into a commoner or knight to distribute food, and she would buy the food with the money she got from selling the jewels. It seemed like a decent plan, or so she thought. Afterwards, Theodore confronted Lily, stating that he heard that she sold her jewels. Lily was quite annoyed that damn merchant. She paid him to keep quiet, but he still ran his mouth. Lily said that she wanted to buy new jewels to replace the old ones, which was obviously a lie. Theodore said that she did not need to sell her jewels to make money. They might be struggling financially, but House Valentino was a ducal house house of the north, and she could purchase new jewels with the money allotted for her to keep up her appearance and still have plenty of money left. Lily remarked that if only he had said that, as she apologized, stating that she would be careful from now on. She glanced at Theodore, thinking that he looked particularly pale today. She heard he had a spirit, and the spirit he made up with was not very compatible. Thinking that if it was still the case, Theodore got up from his seat, stating that that was all he wanted to say, as he would excuse himself. Before leaving, he remarked that her decision to sell her jewels as a way to cope with the shock of seeing the state of the domain confirmed that she was unmistakably a daughter of the Everett family, which made Lily flinch. Before leaving, Theodore asked her to rest, as he would not be showing her such unpleasant sights from now on. As he closed the door, leaving Lily lost in thought, she thought that he was not going to ask if she was not scared when that angry man nearly choked her. Perhaps he would have been happy if she had been strangled to death, as he would have been able to get rid of a nuisance without lifting a finger. At night, as Lily lay on the bed, realizing that she could not sleep, she thought she should go for a walk, as she did not want to wake Charlotte up. Walking down the garden, she encountered Theodore, thinking what he was doing at this hour. She heard whispers from Theodore, remarking something about, if he was here. Lily was quite shocked. If he'd just say brother? He was crying. She snapped to hide behind the trees. Theodore, while crying, questioned Lily about what she was doing there. Theodore confronted Lily, questioning that he asked her what she was doing there, for which Lily said that she was just taking a walk. Theodore stated that at this hour he guessed that she was taking a walk and also spying on him, crying. Lily tried to deny that she was not spying on him as she bumped into his chest. Theodore said that snooping around the castle was the reason why she would not find anything worth her time there, for which Lily tried to deny that was not what she was doing. Theodore said that she was telling him that she really came out there at this hour to take a walk without her attendant, and asked if she expected him to believe that. Lily asked him to think as he wanted. Theodore asked her to come with him as he took her inside the castle. Lily asked him to wait as she was huffing. Theodore asked her to go inside and not to wander around alone at such late hours anymore, for which Lily thought that he would never be worried about her. She paused before going through the door, thinking that this might sound crazy, but she bid him a good night before going in, thinking that she just wanted to talk with him a bit more. And the next morning, Lily could not sleep because of the previous night when she had found Theodore in that state. Then Charlotte greeted Lily and asked her if she would like breakfast first or if she wanted to wash her face. Lily responded by telling her that she would like to wash her face first, and she would have the fruits for breakfast. Charlotte joyfully agreed and requested Lily to wait for a moment. As Lily had a little breakfast, Charlotte complained to Lily by addressing her as Grace and told her that she had promised her that she would eat more for lunch. Lily had eaten little at breakfast, and Lily replied that she would. Then Lily ordered Charlotte that she could tell the merchant to come before the afternoon, as she needed to buy something. Charlotte strictly agreed to it. As Lily got her hair combed, Lily told herself that she had accidentally lied about wanting to buy new jewelry, so she should act like one. Then her attendant was caught by the attendant, and Lily tried to remember her name and questioned herself. Was it Jana? Lily realized that she seemed to be indifferent compared to the other maids, so it was easy to deal with her, though it seemed like she disliked Lily. Well, most of the people in the castle probably disliked her. Later, as Lily was picking the jewelries, she told the merchant that it looked to her that he had quite poor taste. In reality, Lily had a grudge against him, as she had paid him for silence, but he still went ahead and told Theodore about it. Lily thought and told herself that he probably never intended to keep it secret. Any discerning person would know that she was the puppet duchess, which triggered Lily. She was determined to take revenge, as she had many ways to retaliate. Then Lily stated to the merchant that he had committed to showing that the next piece would be the last one, and they should see it. The merchant agreed to it and showed her the piece, which was a quite beautiful peridot, the color of green apple like Lily's eyes. Lily realized that it would probably suit her well, but she again refused to take it, and told the merchant that she disliked that one also. Then suddenly, someone from the back said that he would buy that necklace. It was Theodore from behind. The merchant enthusiastically referred to Theodore as Duke Valentino and said that it was an honor. Then Theodore told the merchant to leave the necklace, and the head official would handle the payment. The merchant thanked Theodore by addressing him as Grace and told him that he would take his leave. Then Theodore called Lily, referring to her as Lady Everett, and questioned her if she found that necklace unsatisfactory. Then he picked the necklace and moves towards the lily and said that she should wear it nonetheless, as this necklace was a gift from his humble self to her. He would not want to be accused of looking down on the noble daughter of House Everett. Lily thought that it made sense, considering how he thought that she was Duke Everett's daughter. Lily questioned herself, how would he react if he knew that she was an illegitimate child who did not have a drop of Everett blood? And on top of that, she was not even of noble birth. Would he despise her even more than he already did? Then Theodore said to Lily that she should hold her hair up for a moment, as he wanted to put it on her neck. As he put the necklace on Lily, Lily glowed as the necklace enhanced Lily's beauty. Lily thanked Theodore for his gesture and the gift, but Theodore, taken aback by the beauty, hesitantly walked back without saying anything, which shocked Lily. Then, Lily went to another room and stated that she wanted to see Lady Annabella. Lady Seymour said yes, there was something that she needed to tell her and she needed to know it perfectly. Then Lady Seymour told Lily that the day after tomorrow was the death anniversary of Theodore's brother, Camille. Then Lily understood why Theodore was crying in front of the tree the previous night. Then Lady Seymour questioned Lily that she must know how Camille passed away. Lily replied that he died sealing a rift, as far as she knew. Lady Seymour said that yes, that was when Camille was just 20, and Theodore was even younger. Lady Seymour said her brother-in-law and sister lost their lives in the sudden rift, and then Camille died due to the rift as well. Lady Seymour touched the picture and said that she deeply respected both her sister and brother-in-law, and they deserved everyone's love. Yet that was how they both died at such a young age, and there was still so much that she could not comprehend. With suspicious eyes, she gazed towards Lily and said that, including Camille's death, she could not comprehend as well. Lily realized that she must suspect House Everett had something to do with their deaths. If House Everett was behind their deaths, it would mean that the Everetts had been able to manipulate the rift for a long time. She would have never heard of something like that being possible, but father might have found a way to do so. Then Lady Seymour said that Camille was a good child. He was kind-hearted and considerate and loved by all, and he also adored Theodore. When Camille passed away, Theodore was half out of his mind. So when Camille's death anniversary came around, Theodore still got distressed. They needed to hold a memorial service for Camille the day after tomorrow. Normally, as the lady of the house, Lily would be in charge of reviewing the budget and attendance, but it had not been that long since she came to the castle, so she would handle the plans this time, as they could not afford to make a mistake for such an important event. Then Lady Seymour asked Lily if she understood that right. Lily said right, she understood it. As Lily took off the necklace and put it down, looking towards it, thinking and recalling that night when she genuinely wanted to comfort Theodore even though it was not her place, she reminded herself of Lady Annabella's conversation where she stated that when Camomile's death anniversary came around and Theodore still got distressed, that must have been a warning for Lily. Seymour was telling her that even if she saw Theodore struggling, she should not try to approach him, as that was not her place to comfort him. Lily thought and stretched out, saying that she knew that she should not forget her place, but it was not easy for her to not look at others when they were suffering. Then Lily realized why wasn't she able to ignore, as she would have seen Hessen or Leno in pain, she would have easily ignored them. The same went with Lady Seymour or anyone else. Charlotte might be an exception though, as Charlotte was someone special to Lily. But then what about Theodore Valentino? Lily thought that she should stop thinking about it and picked up Theodore's gifted necklace and said that she would be either poisoned or divorced and she must not feel anything at all. She slammed the necklace in her drawer and closed it, thinking and saying to herself that she should lock them away and she would lock them up so they could not escape. Then she would not want to comfort Theodore anymore. Lily mentioned that there was a small box inside of her, and inside that box she started putting away things. She was afraid to name those things. Emotions that were not hers and could not be hers. If those emotions gained a name and started to speak, she would become miserable. During the Memorial Day, rain was pouring down. Everyone was gathered there whispering how poor Camille died and the heavens were cruel, as good people like Camille and Theodore should live happily. But instead, those evil Everetts were leading a comfortable life. Others tried to stop, suggesting that Lily might hear her. Then suddenly, from the back, Lily was told that she should take shelter from the rain. Why was she standing in the midst like that? It was Theodore with an umbrella, and he told Lily to use the umbrella. Lily agreed to it. As Lily got inside the building, wearing Theodore's coat, then suddenly a beautiful girl approached them, calling, "Theodore." As the woman introduced herself as Lady Rose Ward, Rose told Lily that they had not met before. Lily replied that she must be Duke Ward's daughter, adding that she had heard a lot about her and that it was a pleasure to meet her. Rose then moved closer to Theodore and declared that she and Theodore were close friends. So close that they had no secrets between them. Theodore seemed unnerved at her words, and Lily realized that Rose and Theodore Valentino had indeed been close, to the point that there had been talk of marriage between them. Yet rumors had said that the match had fallen through because of Duke Ward's strong objections. Lily guessed that once she divorced Theodore, Rose might very well marry him, assuming Duke Ward permitted it. Saddened by the thought, Lily looked away. Rose then commented that Lily looked pale smile and inquired about her health. Lily gazed at Rose, thinking inwardly that she was indeed a lucky woman. Frozen in the moment, Lily questioned herself. Why was she feeling jealous? Pushing the thought aside, she moved ahead. Rose repeated her concern, saying that Lily had lost all color. Lily responded that she was fine and told them to continue without her as she would take her leave. With that, she departed while Theodore's eyes followed her. Later that night, as Lily sat with a cup of tea, she reflected uneasily. She wondered if she had taken Rose Wart's place. She admitted to herself that she indeed had taken that place. Lady Everett, not Rose Ward, had become the Duchess. Rose could easily comfort Theodore in a way that she never could. The thought weighed heavily until Lily angrily told herself to stop thinking about it. Charlotte soon entered, addressing her as Grace, and asked whether she wished to retire early. She explained that she was planning to burn lavender incense to help her sleep. Lily replied that it sounded good and told Charlotte to proceed. Charlotte, delighted, promised to do so. After Lily lay down, Charlotte left quietly, wishing her a restful night. Lily thanked her, to which Charlotte responded warmly that it was her pleasure. Yet despite the incense, Lily could not sleep. Restless, she rose, opened her drawer, and took out a small pill box. She swallowed several pills at once before lying back down. Soon, she found herself dreaming. In the dream, she questioned whether it was yet another nightmare. She wondered what it would be this time. Another vision of Hessen or Owen who meant to torment her. As she walked forward, she was suddenly seized from behind. It was Theodore, smiling gently as he tried to draw closer. Startled, she pushed him back and demanded that he not approach. Theodore, confused, asked what was wrong, but she repeated that he should stop. He called her name softly, but she only grew more agitated. Irritated, she thought why in the world she was even dreaming of him. She willed herself to wake up, and at that moment, she opened her eyes to find tears streaming down her face. Taken, Lily told herself to calm down. She sat with another cup of tea, repeating that it was only a dream and meant nothing. Suddenly, a knock came at her door. To her surprise, it was none other than Theodore Valentino himself. Seeing him, she remarked that he must be quite drunk to appear in such a state. Addressing him formally as Duke Valentino, she told him that he must have entered the wrong room, for this was hers. Theodore looked at her, spoke her name, and then suddenly collapsed. Shocked, Lily caught him in her arms and carefully helped him to a chair. She considered calling for Charlotte or another attendant, but hesitated. Theodore remarked that he must have lost his mind, questioning himself why he came there. The statement disturbed Lily deeply. Then, almost without realizing it, she cupped his face gently with both hands. She tried to resist, telling herself she should stop, yet every time she looked at Theodore, she felt tears welling up. Her chest tightened painfully, her heart beating violently, and she almost wished it would stop altogether. She reflected that from the very moment she had first seen Theodore at Everett Castle, she had sensed a sinking dread that if she let herself feel anything, her heart would eventually be broken. She reminded herself sternly that she must not expect anything from Theodore. She was not in a position to give anything, nor was he bound to return her feelings. She needed to suppress those emotions, but it was proving impossible. With tears trembling in her eyes, she whispered him. Her voice was gentle, but weighed down by pain. She inwardly admitted to herself that it was terrifying when someone began to feel special. She did not think she could bear such a burden, especially not when it came to Theodore Valentino. He could not and should not reciprocate those feelings. She knew this, and yet despite that knowledge, she leaned closer. In a moment of weakness, she pressed her lips softly against his forehead. Inwardly, she wished desperately that this moment could last forever. Chapter 9. As the sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the chamber, the golden light spilled across the floor and poured towards where Lily and Theodore sat. Lily had been holding Theodore in her arms, her body trembling slightly as she clung to the fleeting warmth of the moment. Yet suddenly, Theodore's expression shifted. A flicker crossed his face before he abruptly pushed her away. He stumbled back, breathing heavily, and muttered to himself what he had been thinking, repeating again that he must have lost his mind. Looking away with sharp restraint, he added coldly that everything had been a mistake, and that he would make sure it never happened again. As he turned, Lily, terrified at the thought of him leaving, seized his hand with trembling fingers. In a shivering voice, she begged him not to go. She repeated her plea again, her body shaking as her words dissolved into desperation. Inwardly, Lily thought that in truth she was not Duke Everett's illegitimate child. She was not bound to those monsters who had ruined lives, and she did not care to be connected to them at all. Yet none of that mattered mattered now, not when Theodore looked at her with eyes full of suspicion. Theodore suddenly spoke again, his tone sharp and controlled. Seeing her fragile condition, he declared that if something like this happened again, then paused, pulling his hand away roughly. Confronting her, he accused her of attempting to trick him. Shock spread through Lily's chest. She wondered what he was saying, unable to comprehend his meaning. Theodore's expression hardened with disgust as he revealed what he believed, that it must all be a trick. He claimed that she had been planning it since before they had even met. He added that it must be a shame that her little act was not effective. Lily, stunned, questioned what he was talking about, but Theodore's sneer deepened. He told her not to pretend, asserting that it had been her father and brothers who ordered her to seduce him. He asked if it was not true that she had tried to catch his eyes in the Everett Castle garden that day. At those words, Lily's face flushed with both fear and humiliation. She tried to explain herself, but Theodore did not allow her the chance. He cut her off, declaring that there was no need for excuses. He insisted that it had been her intention all along. Desperation overtook Lily, and she cried out, trying to prove her innocence. She shouted that it was not true. Her protest startled Theodore for a moment, and his eyes narrowed. Then, with a twisted smile, Theodore told her that she had almost managed to fool him. He mocked her, saying that even though she had been acting, she nearly succeeded. He pressed further, asking how it felt to seduce a man she did not even like. Lily tried to deny it again. She insisted that she had never attempted to seduce him, not once, not ever. Her voice broke as she pleaded for him to believe her. Theodore squeezed Lily's shoulder, stating that her words sounded completely unconvincing to him. Theodore's hands suddenly shot forward, gripping her face harshly. He called her Lady Everett and declared that he would do as she wished. Then, without warning, he pressed his lips to hers. Lily struggled desperately against the kiss, pushing against him until she stumbled back and fell. Looking down at her, Theodore's voice dripped with disdain. He asked her to tell him how it felt to kiss a man she did not even like. He added mockingly that perhaps she did not even mind. And with a disgusted face, he taunted her further. He asked whether they could go even further, sneering if they might share a bed every night without her caring at all. His words broke something within her. Anger surged, and Lily clenched her fist before raising her hand and slapping Theodore across the face. Tears streamed from her eyes as she shouted that he did not know anything. Theodore, unshaken, responded that as he had assumed, there was no way the daughter of the almighty Duke Everett would ever truly want to sleep with him. He then offered a cold apology for being so presumptuous, before turning away and leaving her there. Lily collapsed where she stood, tears falling heavily down her cheeks. She thought bitterly that perhaps it would have been better if she had been a monster like her father. If she had been a creature incapable of loving anyone, she would not have had to endure this suffering. Alone in her room, with the sunlight blinding through the windows, she whispered to herself why such things always happened to her. From that day on, Theodore's attitude grew colder, sharper, always on edge whenever she was near. One day, Lily addressed him formally as His Grace, saying that she needed to speak with him. Theodore answered that he was busy. She insisted that it would not take long. Theodore finally allowed her to speak, warning her to keep it short. Gathering her courage, Lily told him that she was different from her brothers and father. She explained that it had not been her choice to marry him, nor had she ever wished to harm the Valentino family. She confessed that she had been coerced into the marriage by her father, and that all she wanted now was to be of help to the Valentino household. Theodore's eyes filled with disdain. He replied that he had wondered what she was going to say, but if she meant to trick him, she ought at least to make her act convincing. He admitted that her face appeared sincere, but his distrust remained unshaken. Around this time, Theodore often left for the battlefield to close the frequent rifts that threatened his domain. Sometimes he would be gone only 3 days, but other times his absence stretched into months. His constant departures made it nearly impossible for Lily to speak to him. Slowly, a sense of defeat began to take hold in her heart. Within the household, she found herself excluded from family gatherings and even minor events. Madame Seymour turned a blind eye to the servants' subtle harassment, choosing to ignore their clever cruelties. Yet none of these slights truly hurt Lily. The only person who could wound her was Theodore. When she once asked about the capital ball, Theodore had replied that he saw no reason to escort her and that she should attend on her own. When she expressed interest in restoring the neglected greenhouse and distributing medicinal herbs to the people, he dismissed her, saying she should not meddle in matters that did not concern her. He reminded her that she was not Duchess Valentino, but Lady Everett. Even in small moments, the distance grew. When she mistakenly called him by his name before correcting herself as His Grace, he pulled his hand away, telling her to restrain herself and let go. He stated stated flatly that she merely needed to stay with him until the party ended. Then, as though she meant nothing, he excused himself by saying that his brother was waiting. Day by day, she withered under the weight of his rejection. She knew that no matter what happened, Theodore Valentino would never protect her. When her eldest brother Owen summoned her, his words haunted her. He reminded her that she had not forgotten who she was, Lily Everett, the creation of his will, belonging to him until her death. His voice repeated in her mind, and the name Lily Everett echoed like a curse. To her, it sounded like nothing more than a product, an object to be bought and sold. Rumors spread, people whispered about her, and shockingly, many men desired her, not for who she was, but for what she represented. They waited for the day she divorced Duke Valentino, eager to claim her as a second wife or concubine. Owen, greedy as ever, looked forward to the wealth these suitors promised. It dawned on Lily that none of them wanted her soul. They wanted only her shell, like an empty doll, beautiful, fragile, and easy to handle. She was desired only for what she could provide, never for who she truly was. Theodore Valentino had married her to protect his family's domain. It was a union forced upon them both. But her misfortune did not end there. Against her will, her heart betrayed her. She had fallen for the man who despised her and her bloodline. She harbored useless hopes for him, despite knowing they could never be returned. That was her true misfortune. And within this suffocating misery, Lily realized she had no choice left but to give up. A year and a half later, in the Valentino mansion, Lily was looking through the window when a servant came to her and told her that she was being summoned to the room. Lily knocked, and Lady Seymour let her in. As Lily entered the room, she smelled the strong scent of medicines. For her husband, Theodore Valentino, had suffered a serious head injury. Lady Seymour informed Lily that Theodore had been severely bleeding when he was first brought in, but he was stable now, since Theodore had always possessed an extraordinary capability for recovery. Lily replied yes, while flinching, as she recalled the moment when she first heard that Theodore was severely injured while closing a rift on the battlefield. She had been truly alarmed at that time, fearing the worst. Yet, it seemed her worries had been unfounded. As he survived and continued to fight through his injuries, Lily thought that he had always been sturdy and unyielding, but even so, it would be best for him to rest properly, so she should leave soon. Then Lily said to Lady Seymour that she would be going. Lady Annabella, in surprise, questioned her, asking if she was leaving already, and said that she should at least wait until Theodore woke up. Lily replied that not seeing her would be more beneficial for Theodore's recovery. But then, suddenly, the sound of a voice broke the silence. Lily turned to question what Lady Seymour meant by that. At that very moment, Theodore, who had been lying still, opened his eyes in shock and looked at Lily. Their eyes met, and in that silent gaze, the weight of unspoken words pressed down on Lily's chest. She called her husband Theodore Grace, and both of them kept looking at each other without a word. Lily thought to herself why he was not saying anything, as his eyes stayed fixed on her. She thought that maybe she should leave before Theodore spoke, for she feared the words he might say. Then, with hesitation, she apologized to Theodore for disturbing his rest. But suddenly, Theodore questioned Lily, asking her who she was. Lily's heart froze at those words. She thought to herself what he had just said. She wondered if she had finally gone mad or if she was not seeing things correctly. Yet his eyes were steady and serious. She then revealed, though with hesitation, that she was his wife, for now at least. Lady Seymour quickly explained to Theodore that he truly did not remember, and revealed that the woman standing before him was indeed his wife. Theodore was taken aback at the revelation, for he had just learned that he was married. His expression carried bewilderment as he tried to grasp the meaning of those words. Lady Seymour repeated to him that he really did not remember, even though he had been married for well over a year. While Theodore recognized her, but he strangely could not recognize Lily at all. Lily's heart pounded as confusion and sorrow weighed upon her. Theodore, bewildered, tried to search within his memories but could not find even a fragment of her. Lady Seymour herself stood shocked by this sudden surprise, while Lily was left in silence. Then the doctor who had been attending to Theodore spoke, revealing that it appeared the Duke had suffered memory loss. Lily quickly inquired what the doctor meant. He elaborated that fortunately Theodore remembered every important matter regarding his duties, his family, and the estate. However, when it came to Lily, it appeared to be a case of partial amnesia. They would have to wait and see if Theodore's memory would return with time. Lily stood stunned, her mind sinking into doubts. She thought that perhaps Theodore's memory could return through conversation. Yet another dreadful thought came to her. What if he wanted to forget her, simply because he despised her so much? Theodore then asked Lily if she could come closer. He extended his hand forward, requesting her presence. With hesitant steps, Lily approached Theodore and held his hand. Theodore looked at her and asked if he could know her name. With a quiet voice, Lily revealed that her name was Lily. Theodore applauded her name, saying it was a lovely one. Lily then revealed her full name, Lily Everett, and told Theodore that this was her name before they got married. Theodore was taken aback at hearing the name Everett. His eyes observed her silver hair and parada-colored eyes, and something deep within him seemed to stir, though it remained faint and far away. Lily then questioned Theodore if he truly did not remember anything about her. Theodore replied with certainty, saying not at all. At that moment, Lily gazed at him with deadly eyes, her voice steady but sharp, as she stated that he could learn about her through someone else. That, she said, should give him an idea of how he used to treat her. Theodore was left shocked by the bitterness in her tone. Lily then told Theodore that she would like to leave now and requested him to let her go. Theodore, however, tried to stop her. He pulled at her hand, requesting her not to go. His voice carried urgency as if he feared losing something unknown. Theodore then questioned Lily if he had wronged her in some way. He asked if she would mind telling him about how they ended up getting married, adding that if it was too much to ask, she could choose not to answer. His voice carried sincerity, yet it unknowingly pressed against Lily's wounded heart. This request unleashed Lily's anger. She replied with coldness that yes, he should ask somebody else because even she had some sense of shame, and she would not explain things herself. Her words struck like a blade, and Theodore stood in shock at her sharp rejection. As she pulled her hand away, Theodore's grasp slipped, leaving his hands empty. Lily moved away from him, her steps carrying both pain and strength. Theodore called after her, his voice echoing in the room, but she did not stop. The distance between them grew, and though his memory failed him, the ache in his heart grew sharper with every step she took. As Theodore was reading a book, Charlotte apologized to Theodore, addressing him as His Grace, and told him that Lily did not want to see him right then. Theodore snapped his book shut, sinking into thought and pondering over what he had been told earlier. His advisor had informed him that he had married the Duchess for the sake of House Valentino. It was some sort of trade, a union forged with the Everett family. A year and a half were both short and long at the same time. Theodore could vaguely remember visiting Everett Manor about 2 years ago, and he was sure he had met someone there. Yet the memory remained unclear, and what troubled him was that only his memory of Lily had completely vanished. Theodore rose from his seat and questioned Charlotte about her name. She vividly confirmed yes, that was it. He then ordered Charlotte to take him to Lily's room. With a hesitant voice, she agreed, though she requested Theodore to lead the way. As they reached the corridor near Lily's room, another maid arrived and informed Theodore that Lily had already left. She stated that Lily had said she would only be stepping out briefly. Theodore questioned the maid, asking if Lily had gone alone, since the Duchess Valentino could not possibly step outside without proper escort. The maid, however, admitted that Lily had indeed gone alone. Theodore, in disbelief, questioned her again, asking if she was truly saying that no one had accompanied Lily, even though she carried the title of Duchess. The maid replied that it was nothing new. Truthfully, this happened often. Lily frequently went out on her own, and no one except Charlotte ever volunteered to accompany her. The maid bowed her head and apologized for it. Theodore's voice was firm as he told her that they would need to discuss the matter later. Then his gaze shifted towards Charlotte, as though demanding answers, for he believed she must know something. Theodore questioned her about Lily's whereabouts. Charlotte replied nervously that she was afraid she did not know. Theodora pressed further, reminding her that she often went out with Lily, so how could she not know? Charlotte explained that Lily often went for walks by the riverside of the town, though truthfully, she could not say where she had gone on this particular day. Theodore thought to himself that Lily seemed to be hiding secrets, but whatever they were, he would uncover them in time. Without waiting, he opened the door to Lily's chamber and stepped inside. Charlotte stood behind him nervously, thinking to herself that he had entered Lily's private space without permission. Theodore looked around and observed the books scattered here and there, a sight that shocked Charlotte, for Lily never allowed anyone to touch them. Theodore moved with a quiet determination. His eyes fell on a small box, and when he opened it, he found the necklace he had once gifted Lily. At that moment, a faint and unclear memory of Lily flickered within his mind. His attention was then drawn to the paintings resting on the table. As he went through them, Charlotte gasped in shock. Theodore's eyes lingered on one painting in particular, and he was baffled by it. Charlotte quickly informed him that Lily had drawn them herself. Theodore remarked that it was interesting, his tone calm and steady. Charlotte, however, was taken aback by his response. She thought to herself that Theodore Valentino truly did as he pleased, never hesitating, and while he was usually kind to his people, Lily had always been the exception to that kindness. It almost seemed like some compulsion drove him, and the more he acted that way toward her, the stranger it became. Continuing his search, Theodore found multiple medicines neatly arranged. He questioned Charlotte about them, asking what type of medicines Lily had been taking. Charlotte hesitated, her eyes wavering, as she prepared to reveal the truth. Meanwhile, away from the mansion, Lily was busy distributing potatoes to the people of the state. As she handed one to a poor villager, the person thanked her with heartfelt words. A woman nearby added that Lily was such a kind soul, always coming all the way out to deliver food personally. She mentioned that before winter, Lily had distributed blankets, and if not for that, her family would not have survived. So Lily disguised herself so she moved quietly among the common people. Around her, they gossiped with smiles, saying that lately their lives had improved. The rifts that once tore through their land did not occur every day anymore as they used to. Another man agreed, saying he used to live in constant fear of being attacked by monsters in his sleep, but now, thanks to their lord, that fear was fading. Their lord's power was growing stronger day by day, so much so that rifts and monsters no longer stood a chance. They said House Valentino no longer needed the Everett family's support, as their power was finally being restored to its former glory. Lily listened quietly, thinking that it was a good thing for the people and the land. But in her heart, she thought that Theodore might really divorce her soon, whether he regained his memory or not, for their position remained unchanged. As she was preparing to leave, the woman asked Lily if she was going already. Lily replied yes, explaining that she had something to do in the evening. She promised that the next time she came, she would bring fruit as well. The woman smiled and told her there was no need, though they would appreciate the thought. Just as Lily turned to leave, she suddenly heard a loud and familiar voice. The voice rang with arrogance and fury, shouting for others to move aside. It yelled, asking how they dared to stand in his way. The man screamed that they were nothing more than insects of the barony's domain and demanded if they even knew who he was. Lily froze as she recognized the voice. It was Hessen Everett. Lily stood among a dense crowd of commoners, confusion washing over her as she tried to understand how the situation had spiraled so far out of control. From where she stood, she carefully observed the commotion unfolding before her. She was well aware that her brother frequently led his men into battle in service of the Duchy of Veronis, yet seeing this level of aggression directed at ordinary townspeople filled her with quiet horror. Hessen, his blonde hair catching the light, turned sharply toward his opponent, demanding to know the reason for such a stare. He carried himself with the air of someone convinced that the brunette man before him had a death wish. Seeking clarity, Lily approached one of the locals and gently asked what had taken place. The response she received was anything but gentle. With open disdain, Hessen questioned how anyone would dare insult the Everett family in his presence. Lily clenched her teeth as she sensed the subtle shift that had occurred between her household and the people of the duchy. There had once been unfiltered hatred toward the Everetts. Now, mockery had joined it. She knew her brother's temper well. He would never tolerate ridicule. In a fit of fury, Hessen suggested brutal punishments, throats slit or tongues severed. One of the accused demanded to know who he was to decide their fate. Voices from the crowd insisted that only their true master had the right to punish them. Someone shouted that the Everett estate was nothing more than the devil's lair. An elderly man, his voice trembling, claimed he would recognize those airs anywhere. It was then explained that Hessen was the son of Duke Everett. The blonde man laughed in disbelief and indignation that the townspeople had only just realized his identity. He forced the accused to choose their punishment and pointed at one unfortunate resident, declaring he would be the first. Unable to remain a passive observer, Lily stepped forward. Bowing her head, she introduced herself under the name Leah, claiming to be a servant from Duke Valentino's castle. She asked forgiveness for interfering, and extended that apology on behalf of the townspeople as well. With sincerity, she requested that Hessen listen. She explained that the locals had never received proper education and had endured relentless attacks from magical creatures for more than a year. Their careless words, she suggested, had been born of hardship rather than malice. She pleaded for mercy. Hessen lowered his sword toward her, observing that she was far too bold and well-mannered to be a mere servant. He even remarked upon her refined conduct, despite her supposed position. Lily thanked him, striving to remain composed. Without warning, he seized her hand and pulled her close, locking his gaze onto her green eyes. Suspicion flickered across his face as he questioned her motives, as though she had taken up deception as a new pastime. Cold sweat slid down Lily's back. She had believed the pendant would conceal her identity flawlessly. Instead, Hessen dragged her away from the crowd and pressed her harshly against a wall. He mocked the ugly shell she had chosen as a disguise and ordered his sister to restore her true appearance at once. With a heavy sigh, Lily allowed the illusion to fade. Her familiar features returned, along with the quiet sorrow lingering in her emerald eyes. Hessen demanded to know why she had been wandering the city dressed as a servant, reminding her that she was a duchess. A grin spread across his face as he produced a rope and bound her hand. Lily asked what he thought he was doing. He countered by questioning whether she truly intended to marry someone like Lennon. Offended, she asked when her marriage had become his concern. He shot back that it had always been his business. Roughly, Hessen dragged her toward a nearby horse. At that moment, Theodore appeared, gripping his reins tightly and commanding Hessen to stop. Horror flashed across Theodore's face when he saw Lily's bound hands. He stepped between husband and brother, demanding honesty. Hessen responded by questioning why Theodore suddenly cared. Through clenched teeth, Theodore asked again what Hessen had just called his wife. With a dismissive gesture, Hessen wondered if Theodore had lost his senses, reminding him that he had once spoken of Lily Everett with nothing but contempt. How, he demanded, could Theodore now treat her as something precious? Lily lowered her gaze. It would be dangerous if Theodore revealed anything about his lost memories. Her family could easily exploit such weakness. After freeing her hands, she positioned herself between the two men and tried to lighten the tension, telling her younger brother to stop playing pranks. Hessen insisted that nothing about this was amusing. Lily was startled to see him flinch. He had clearly believed she would never manage to untie herself. She reassured Theodore that there was no real harm done, and asked him not to worry. Theodore could not accept her dismissal. He reminded her that he was her husband and had the right to intervene, accusing Hessen of treating her like a delinquent. Hessen, astonished by Theodore's fierce protectiveness, realized that this was not the man he remembered. Lily too wondered if her brother would be so agitated had Theodore remained the cold person he once was before losing his memory. From the corner of her eye, she imagined how differently this might have unfolded in the past, how her husband might not even have searched for her. Understanding she had no alternative, Lily resolved to maintain her pretense. Suddenly, her vision blurred, the world tilted beneath her feet, and she collapsed as though pulled into a dark abyss. A crushing hopelessness enveloped her, and she felt as if invisible waters were closing over her head, dragging her down into suffocating depths. Lily suddenly jolted awake from sleep, drawing in a deep, shaky breath as though she had surfaced from drowning, her chest rising and falling rapidly while panic still clung to her. As her vision cleared, the blonde duchess realized she was kneeling on the floor beside her own bed, safely inside her chamber, where Charlotte hurried to her side and anxiously urged her ladyship to steady her breathing and not strain herself. And through clenched teeth, Lily slowly understood that the suffocating presence of her brother Hessen was finally gone, prompting her to scan the room until her gaze fell upon her husband Theodore, whose expression brimmed with unmistakable excitement and concern, a reaction so uncharacteristically open that it genuinely startled her. He sat beside her on the bed and carefully inquired about her condition, and although she insisted she was fine, Theodore confessed that terror had seized him when she had stopped breathing, explaining that the physician had ordered constant monitoring and had strictly warned that she must not miss their appointments, words that made Lily's heart pound wildly against her ribs. After which she eagerly asked whether Hessen had already departed, and she was informed that he had returned to his private residence in Salisbury and was no longer in Voronezh. A revelation that deeply surprised her because her brother had always flaunted his pride in belonging to the Everett family and had consistently demonstrated fierce loyalty to their household, never establishing a business of his own and rarely allowing anyone but a few trusted men to accompany him, leaving Lily confused about why he would suddenly concern himself with personal property unless some hidden matter was unfolding within their family. Her thoughts were interrupted when Theodore stepped closer, and she reminded herself that whatever schemes or contradictions defined Hessen, who could be playful one moment and merciless the next, were no longer her immediate concern, as her husband gently insisted that she required rest, and even asked if she wished him to remain by her side, yet she lowered her eyes and explained that she preferred solitude, clarifying that it was not rejection but discomfort she felt when surrounded by others, which prompted Theodore to smile apologetically and admit he should have considered her feelings sooner, before announcing his departure and urging her to recover properly. And as she wished him good night, he unexpectedly asked if she might address him by his first name the next time they were alone, a request that lingered in her mind long after he left. Once Charlotte and Lily were alone, the maid confessed how frightened she had been when her mistress suddenly collapsed, describing how for a terrifying instant it seemed as though Lily's heart had ceased entirely, and Lily, smiling reassuringly, admitted she hoped everything was now well, while lightly laughing and revealing that her fainting had been intentional, achieved through a special method she possessed and could explain if Charlotte truly wished to know. Though upon noticing the maid's flustered and tearful agitation, she instead received a plea, never to attempt such a reckless act again, a promise she solemnly made, which filled Charlotte with relief as she presented a plate holding fragrant soup that had once been warm but had cooled while waiting. and Lily agreed to eat while silently reflecting on Theodore's unusual request that she call him by name, recalling the many times she had spoken it in impatience, in despair, and in fragile hope, only to eventually realize such efforts had been futile. She failed to grasp that Theodore himself was gradually learning how to treat her differently, and for her the warmth he now displayed felt like a fleeting illusion born of his lost memories, bright and transient like sunlight that briefly illuminates before fading away. Elsewhere, Theodore reclined in a comfortable chair after idly flipping a coin and watching it land, replaying the day's events in his mind. Remembering how Hessen had cautioned him earlier that Lily was about to faint, and had coldly remarked that his sister possessed a talent for drawing attention in precisely that manner, questioning why Theodore appeared so troubled when their marriage would soon end in divorce, and pressing him further by asking whether he truly intended to remain bound for life to a woman from the Everett family, asserting that once separated, Lily would be married off to a disreputable man from the Chester family, and that her existence was already miserable, even suggesting with chilling bluntness that the couple had not properly spent their wedding night, and asking whether Theodore comprehended the consequences awaiting her should she be forced into such a union. Disturbed and struggling to piece together what he himself had been doing all this time, Theodore rang the bell, summoning a loyal servant who rushed in awaiting orders, and the Duke commanded that Kelvin be called and instructed to wait for him in the library. When Kelvin entered the office, he immediately inquired whether Theodore's lost memories had finally returned, and the Duke lifted his gaze only to give a firm negative response, prompting Kelvin to question the reason for being summoned. Theodore then explained that he needed a clear understanding of the kind of man he had been before his amnesia, specifically how he had behaved toward Lily, and what sort of conversations they had shared, pressing his assistant to reveal anything he knew, while Kelvin, puzzled by the urgency, asked why such knowledge was suddenly necessary, and Theodore admitted that he had already questioned the servants and even the estate manager, yet still required his most trusted aide's honest opinion. Taking a seat, Calvin carefully stated that Theodore's manner of speaking to Lady Lily had been considered proper and dignified, especially for a man of the Valentino lineage, though he did not hide the fact that the Duke had been notably harsh toward his wife, despite her belonging to the Everett family. A comment that made Theodore object by emphasizing that she now carried the Valentino name, yet Calvin shook his head and remarked that Theodore had endured needless suffering because of her, adding that the fragmented story Theodore himself had once recounted to him was so obscure and tangled that discerning the truth had been nearly impossible, and therefore suggesting it might be wiser to wait until his memories naturally resurfaced, even advising him not to grow too close to Lily in the meantime, lest he later regret it. However, Theodore insisted that it was already too late for such caution and demanded to hear everything. So with a heavy sigh, Calvin began recounting how Theodore had first encountered Lily 2 years earlier at the castle of Duke Everett, admitting that his own knowledge was limited due to his constant duties, but recalling troubling incidents in which Lily had intended to pursue certain matters that led to quiet hostility among the servants, some of whom had cruelly collected dead birds and rats and deliberately placed them near her window or outside her chambers for 6 long months. A revelation that made Theodore realize she had endured hidden torment in silence, while whispers of disdain trailed her through the corridors, and as he reflected on the span of 2 years, he wondered whether wounds inflicted over such a prolonged period could ever truly heal, suspecting that the darkness within Lily's heart might run far deeper than he had imagined. At that moment, he remembered the stern teachings of his former mentor, who had once told him that suffering resided within the individual, that even a person content with a single piece of bread would eventually crave more, and that greed, hatred, and envy were the roots of misery that deepened pain beyond measure, warning that no one could fully isolate themselves from such corrosive emotions. And Theodore found himself questioning why, before losing his memory, he had been so unkind to his own wife, and whether he had in fact felt drawn to her from the very beginning, only to hear from Calvin that he had once fallen deeply in love with a young woman, and had spoken vividly about the overwhelming emotion he felt upon their first meeting, recounting every minute detail he had noticed about her in a way so intense that Calvin had jokingly considered it obsessive, even admitting that listening to those passionate descriptions had nearly driven him mad, which made it all the more incomprehensible that despite harboring such feelings, Theodore had later treated his wife with cruelty, leaving him unable to understand who had spread damaging rumors or how such a grave misunderstanding had come to pass. Troubled, Theodore wandered the corridor, attempting to reconstruct memories of Lily as she had been before his mind went blank, concluding that she surely despised him now, and he was startled by the sound of approaching footsteps, lifting his head to find his Aunt Annabella standing there, her presence puzzling him until she explained that she had heard of Lily's sudden collapse and recovery, and had come out of concern, reminding him that Lily was part of their family, yet Theodore gently assured her that his wife was resting, and that another visit would be more appropriate. causing Annabella to cover her face in mild disappointment at missing the chance to see her, though she agreed to return later, while Theodore mentioned that he too must resume his work. Before leaving, Annabella asked whether his memory of Lily had returned, and when he confirmed it had not, she dismissed the matter as unimportant and advised him not to change his way of living with the girl since she would soon depart their household, a comment weighted by the fact that Annabella had long overseen the castle in the absence of the late Duchess, though Theodore felt no desire to revere her authority. Elsewhere, Owen remarked that he had already heard of the meeting between Lily and Theodore Valentino, muttering darkly that he would see someone frozen for their actions, and when Hessen demanded to know what had transpired, he admitted that Duke Valentino had seemed like an entirely different man, almost as if he truly suffered memory loss, prompting Owen to question what had gone wrong and why Theodore's demeanor had shifted so drastically. Yet Owen firmly reminded his younger brother that every action he took was for the benefit of the Everett family before storming out and slamming the door in fury, leaving Hessen burning with rage and vowing to uncover whatever scheme those people were plotting, determined not to lose so easily and promising to discover the full truth. Beneath a wide blue sky where soft clouds drifted lazily and sunlight streamed through tall windows to illuminate the refined furnishings of Duke Valentino's residence, Theodore and Lily sat facing one another at a small table set with 2 steaming mugs of tea while logs crackled warmly in the fireplace, and after gathering his thoughts, Theodore calmly questioned why she had been dressed as a maid, causing Lily's delicate frame to tremble as fear gripped her at the thought of revealing the truth about her secret charity work and the artifact she possessed. Theodore then recounted how villagers had reported that the son of the Everett family had seized a maid from the Valentino estate, explaining that the villagers knew her by the name Leah and believed she had been visiting them to distribute food and essential supplies. And noticing Lily's unease, he gently reassured her that nothing was wrong and encouraged her honesty, asking directly whether she had been aiding the villagers under the guise of a servant. Yet Lily lowered her gaze, uncertain how he would respond if he understood the full weight of her actions, worrying whether he would feel moved or merely indifferent, and finding herself wondering if she had once longed to see such a reaction from him before his memory vanished. Reminding herself that he had forgotten all the reasons he once resented her, she finally dismissed the matter as nothing more than a pastime, explaining that whenever boredom overtook her, she would visit the village to offer assistance and that there was nothing remarkable about it. And Theodore's surprised expression shimmered faintly in the surface of his tea before he accepted her explanation and cautiously asked another question, tightening his grip on a small jar, as he revealed that he had consulted a pharmacist about its contents and learned that the medicine inside was derived from dangerously poisonous herbs, capable of harming the body if consumed daily, his voice heavy with concern as he asked whether she had truly taken it every single day without omission. While Charlotte anxiously begged forgiveness from the side, and Lily coolly admitted she relied on the pills each night because sleep would not come otherwise. As a faint blue haze gathered around Theodore's hands, the container suddenly shattered into tiny fragments, and he firmly requested that she never take such sleeping pills again, to which Lily confessed she had swallowed 2 the previous night before her speech, prompting Theodore to reason that her body must have developed tolerance and forced her to increase the dosage, then demanding to know where the remaining medicine was, and when she panicked at his intent, he flung open a nightstand drawer, declaring he would burn the cursed substance, soon reducing the bottles to ash within blue flames before asking if any more remained, and pressing her to swear she was not lying, explaining that prolonged use of the poison could lead to death. Yet Lily responded coldly that she had long been aware of the side effects, and that the potential harm did not trouble her, words that made Theodore lower his eyes in guilt as he admitted he knew he had once been cruel before losing his memory, and that although they could pretend normalcy, he sincerely wished to mend their fractured relationship and promised to correct his unjust treatment. Overwhelmed, Lily covered her face as tears streamed down and her trembling hands loosened their grip on the mug, which fell and shattered across the floor as she asked how something already broken into countless pieces could ever be restored, and in the next instant a shard sliced into her palm, crimson blood slowly spilling from the wound, sending Theodore into panic as he seized her injured hand and noticed the deep cuts, urgently realizing he needed assistance. Yet she sharply pulled away and demanded release, while he insisted the injury must be treated before worsening. And after the doctor bandaged her hand and advised rest, Theodore leaned close to assure her that everything would improve, extending his hand gently only to see her recoil in fear as she broke down completely and begged him to leave because she was afraid of him, clinging instead to Madame Charlotte, who respectfully urged his lordship to step outside and promised to care for her mistress, leaving Theodore standing in quiet anguish as he watched his wife sob in another's embrace, the pain of that sight far heavier than any accusation. Sunlight streamed generously through the tall windows and spilled across the living room, illuminating the quiet aftermath of the previous night, where Charlotte had remained seated beside her mistress until sleep overtook her. Her head bowed near Lily's side in stubborn devotion, and as morning warmth brushed her face, Lily gently stirred and shook the maid awake, assuming from the stiffness in her posture that she must have been utterly exhausted. Charlotte startled slightly before anxiously scanning her lady's expression and asking whether everything was all right, prompting Lily to wonder aloud if the maid had truly stayed beside her the entire night. And Charlotte, her eyes already glossed with unshed tears, admitted that after Lily had returned wounded and trembling, she had been too frightened to leave her alone, so she kept watch out of worry, reaching out to carefully touch the blonde's hand and timidly ask again if her condition had improved, to which Lily confessed that she had simply been frightened the day before. Though when Charlotte noticed the injury on her hand and inquired how it had happened, Lily lightly explained that she had broken a cup, an excuse that did not quite align with her usual composed nature, and led the maid to suspect fatigue rather than clumsiness. Nevertheless, Charlotte carefully helped her mistress to stand and insisted she wash and eat properly, emphasizing that a true breakfast was necessary, instead of a few slices of fruit, and Lily, smiling faintly at the maid's persistence, agreed, while the nervous Charlotte soon apologized for the Duke's discovery of the sleeping pills, only for Lily to reassure her that she had already intended to stop taking them, though the maid insisted they were harmful toxins capable of causing irreversible damage, which led Lily to promise that she would instead burn sleep-inducing incense from that day forward, and gently calm Charlotte by explaining that it was not poisonous and would not endanger her health. Before the moment could settle fully, a soft knock sounded at the door, and a gentle feminine voice asked whether the Duchess had changed her clothes. Introducing herself as Jane Soff, the newly appointed physician of the estate assigned personally by Duke Theodore to oversee Lily's well-being. And with a polite smile, she clarified that while her primary specialty was gynecology, she also possessed experience in psychiatry, causing Lily to quietly wonder whether this appointment was connected to Theodore's altered memories, as Jane proceeded to explain that the medicine Lily had been consuming could result in infertility, a side effect the Duchess calmly acknowledged she was already aware of, and upon confirming that Lily had ceased taking the sleeping pills, Jane praised the decision and suggested replacing them with a harmless herbal decoction, candidly assessing that Lily's overall health was alarmingly fragile, her immunity weakened to the point that she resembled an elderly patient rather than a young noblewoman, yet assuring her that with consistent care improvement was entirely possible. After bowing respectfully and promising to return the next day while urging Lily to summon her at any sign of discomfort, the doctor departed, leaving Lily with a quiet realization that she desperately needed a change of scenery, and so she suggested to Charlotte that they visit the library together, an invitation the maid gratefully accepted. Though upon arrival, Charlotte initially positioned herself at a distance out of habit until Lily insisted she bring a chair and sit beside her. Knowing well that Charlotte could read due to her upbringing in a monastery where monks had taught her letters and scripture, an unusual skill for a maid from an orphanage and one that had prompted Lily on many occasions to bring her to the library and grant her freedom to explore its volumes, an opportunity for which Charlotte shyly expressed heartfelt gratitude. In another corner of the aristocratic world, hushed conversations drifted from one noble to another as Adeline carefully navigated the storm of rumors surrounding the supposed reconciliation between the Duchess and Duke Valentino, her lips curved into a tight, practiced smile as she fought to maintain dignity, while speculation about an inevitable divorce spread freely through the gathering. Woven into these whispers was an even more tantalizing story, claiming that the Duke had secured at auction a fabled blue opal necklace from Laya for his wife, offering an astonishing sum for the relic, said to be over 3 centuries old. A jewel once adorning a Laian princess on her wedding day before disappearing more than 50 years ago, only to resurface unexpectedly in the capital, and ignite renewed fascination, envy, and doubt among the elite, with some murmuring that Lady Adeline herself might once have had ties to the treasured ornament, prompting her to gently caution those nearby to lower their voices, lest their curiosity travel too far. Within this charged atmosphere, a green-haired lady proposed a friendly game of chess to lighten the mood, and Adeline, her expression bright with restrained interest, took the opportunity to ask whether any reliable information existed about Duke Valentino and his wife, receiving a measured response that the Duchess had been the Duke's childhood companion and that their bond had once been undeniably close, though beyond that no one could confidently describe the present truth of their marriage, a reply delivered with a polite yet strained smile that betrayed unease. Just then, Crown Prince Radale Lancius of the Francis Kingdom entered the scene with relaxed confidence, a wine glass poised casually in his hand, and Crown Princess Eloise Lancius at his side, their arrival commanding attention as Radale cheerfully remarked that the season had already reached its midpoint and observed how the summers of Francis were far gentler than those elsewhere, praising the kingdom as a perfect setting for invigorating outdoor pursuits before enthusiastically announcing plans to revive the grand hunting festival while time still permitted, revealing that Ashridge Forest would once again open its grounds and that the Duke and Duchess of Valentino had been formally invited to attend, a declaration that caused visible shock to flicker across Adeline's face as disbelief widened her eyes at the implications of their presence. When Rattle's words reached the guests, everyone at the party began to murmur among themselves. Rattle raised his glass and announced that this was the first time the Valentinos would be attending a hunting banquet together. And Rattle explained that the improvement in the Duke's family life was indeed a reason for joy. One of the girls then approached Lady Adeline. She suddenly jumped to her feet and invited her friends to come and greet the Crown Prince and Crown Princess. Adeline followed the brunette, while the blonde ran up to the princess, excitedly explaining to her sister that she was here. Adeline realized that sooner or later she would have to visit Veronica to find out whether the rumors were true. The truth about Theodore's temporary partial memory loss was carefully concealed from everyone beyond a trusted few, and Lily carried the burden of that secret alone. Acutely aware that the real issue was not merely his lost memories but the startling transformation in his behavior to outside observers, it might have appeared that harmony had finally settled between the Duke and Duchess, especially when Theodore began expressing gratitude to his wife for even the smallest gestures, yet to Lily the change felt surreal, almost maddening, as though she were watching a stranger inhabit her husband's body. And recently he had taken to addressing her with an affectionate nickname while insisting she call him by his given name, a familiarity that felt foreign and unsettling after years of distance since the incident that caused his memory lapse. He had not approached her with the cold authority she once knew, and at first she believed he had at last relinquished his rigid expectations of her. But as days passed, she realized he was restraining emotions he did not fully understand. Lingering near her chambers under various pretexts, leaving bouquets of fresh flowers, carefully penned letters, and small thoughtful gifts at her door, before retreating without awaiting acknowledgement. And though these gestures might have seemed romantic to any onlooker, to Lily they were fragments of a dream she had long ago abandoned, made more confusing by the fact that he occasionally lost his temper and resumed pestering her with an intensity that betrayed inner turmoil. Soon, he presented a formal request that they attend together a grand hunting banquet hosted by the Crown Prince, and Lily agreed solely to preserve their public image as a united noble couple, suspecting that Theodore misread her compliance as a sign that she had begun to open her heart to him. Yet what tormented her most was the unchanging emptiness in his mind. For more than a week had passed since the physician advised patience, and still no memories returned, leaving Lily feeling as though her sanity were fraying thread by thread as she approached the limits of her endurance, painfully aware that the man before her, no matter how gentle he appeared, was essentially someone new. She wavered between the temptation to erase the past and attempt to rebuild their marriage from this altered foundation, and the conviction that nothing genuine could grow without confronting the truth, recognizing that his present tenderness resembled a delicate sandcastle sculpted on a shoreline, beautiful yet doomed to collapse beneath the first relentless wave of returning memory. In the midst of these reflections, Theodore enthusiastically shared news he had heard, claiming that the prize for triumph at the banquet's hunt would be the famed coral bracelet of Arundel, a treasured relic donated by the queen herself, reputed to be one of 7 enchanted artifacts crafted by the magician Lockshire, a royal sorcerer who had once fled from distant lands and earned high honor in their kingdom, a widower devoted solely to his beloved daughter after his wife's early death, whose daughter eventually captured the heart of the Crown Prince Rodri Lancier, the fortunate man who later ascended the throne as king. And though Lockshire and King Rodri both eventually died, legend held that despite the king's professed devotion, he later succumbed to numerous affairs, keeping as many as 10 mistresses, each meeting a grim fate at the queen's hands, a scandalous tale whispered not only throughout the kingdom of Francis, but in neighboring realms as well. Lily observed that it was remarkably generous for a princess to relinquish such a personal heirloom, and Theodore agreed, speculating that the offering symbolized affection toward the crown prince, before declaring his fervent desire to win the bracelet and present it to his own lady, vowing to exert every effort to secure it. And with each repetition of the endearing nickname he favored, Lily felt a growing dissonance, as though she were witnessing a fractured personality. Because she could not reconcile this attentive suitor with the man who once regarded her with open aversion, she reminded herself that he had never been universally cold, yet before losing his memory he harbored a particular disdain for her alone, and she remembered vividly the exhausting years spent striving to earn even a droplet of warmth from him, efforts that now seemed bitterly ironic since affection flowed toward her only after she had ceased seeking it. And she could not accept a love born of oblivion, refusing to believe that her long endurance had been for the sake of a fragile illusion. Smiling with gentle insistence, Theodore mentioned that she would need to ride at the banquet and suggested they practice together that very evening. but Lily's composure shattered as she set her cup down with abrupt force and clarified that her agreement to attend was motivated purely by duty and reputation, not by any desire to cultivate intimacy. Confessing that his closeness unsettled her, and that resentment simmered within her like a slow internal fire consuming her strength, for she remained deeply wounded by the years during which he never listened to her pleas, and now claimed ignorance of all that pain, prompting her to state coldly that she could no longer expect anything from him or trust in promises that might dissolve once his memories resurfaced. She recalled with piercing clarity the moment he had turned away when she sought his help, standing aside while her own brothers tormented her, and she reiterated the conviction she had voiced countless times before that something shattered beyond recognition could not simply be restored. Tears gathering unbidden in her eyes as she demanded to know what he could possibly do with the scattered fragments of her heart. Then ordering him to leave her presence, he spoke her name softly, confusion etched across his features as he struggled to comprehend the depth of her anguish. But Lily covered her face and staggered backward, declaring that if he refused to depart, then she would remove herself instead, rising abruptly and fleeing the room while memories echoed mercilessly in her mind, every remembered phrase cutting like a blade, especially the image of his cold gaze, the harsh edge of his voice, and the devastating sight of him being the first to exit that chamber years ago, abandoning her to the predatory scrutiny of Lennon and Chester, whose hungry stares she could never erase from memory, their presence lingering like beasts poised to devour her. Tears streamed continuously down her pale cheeks as she reminded herself that she was the daughter of the Everett family, and that misunderstandings had long existed between her and Theodore, yet despite all political complications, it was his indifference that had pierced her most deeply. And when he finally caught up to her, he drew her tightly into his arms as though fearful of losing her, attempting to hold her fast and bridge a chasm he did not fully understand, while within Lily a conflicting storm raged, for part of her, wounded and resentful, wished to inflict upon him the same pain that had once left her shattered.
Please support us by subscribing to our Patreon. The link is in the About section of our channel.
As shimmering streams of water cascaded from the ornate fountain and the setting sun washed the sky in delicate shades of pastel, Theodore drew Lily into a gentle embrace and sought her forgiveness with quiet desperation, believing that tenderness alone might mend what had been broken between them. Lily, her jaw tightening as she fought the storm inside her, flushed with conflicted emotion and pushed him away, unable to reconcile the warmth of the man before her with the cold stranger who had once despised her. She explained that the man holding her now was not truly the one she had known, because he remembered nothing of the pain or history that had shaped their marriage, and she questioned the value of apologies and promises spoken by someone whose memories had vanished. Old in her heart, she could not comprehend how memory loss could transform hatred into affection, recalling vividly that her husband had once regarded her with nothing but resentment, treating her as an extension of the Everett family rather than as a wife, leaving her to exist like a lifeless ornament within the estate. Theodore stepped closer, convinced that some grave misunderstanding must have separated them in the past, and he vowed to uncover the truth and repair the damage, viewing his lost memories as an unexpected second chance to begin anew. He confessed that on the day he injured his head and first saw her afterward, the emotion that surfaced within him had been unmistakable affection, yet Lily met his words with icy resistance, refusing to listen because his sincerity now felt meaningless compared to the years of neglect she had endured. He insisted that his feelings were genuine, and that some hidden confusion must have buried them before, but Lily, angered, rejected what sounded to her like empty fantasy, for she had never once experienced such tenderness from him before his accident. She revealed that in the life she had known, she had been nothing more than the daughter of the Everett house, forced into marriage, stripped of dignity, surviving day after day without hope, and she had long concluded that divorce was her only path forward, even though it would inevitably cast her into the grasp of Lennon Chester, a fate so unbearable that she had resolved to end her own life rather than submit to it. In those darkest thoughts, only Charlotte had ever urged her to choose a different future, repeatedly encouraging her to flee from the suffocating world of noble schemes, and the loyal maid had once proposed escape to the eastern continent by boat, promising that there they could live hidden, adopting new identities far from the reach of both the Everetts and the Valentinos, swearing unwavering devotion to remain by Lily's side. Tempted by the possibility, Lily considered disappearing entirely, especially as Theodore's authority strengthened, and the Valentino family steadily regained influence, convincing her that it was finally time to stop entangling herself in Everett ambitions and simply vanish. Yet she turned back to Theodore with a lingering question, asking what would happen if his memories returned before he uncovered the supposed misunderstanding, or worse, if he forgot even the time they had spent together after his injury. She wondered aloud whether everything between them might truly have been nothing but layered misunderstandings, and when he reassured her that restored memories would only clarify the truth, she withdrew her hand and asked him to accept her decision, declaring their conversation futile because she had already envisioned the course her life would take and no longer possessed the strength to resist it. Overcome by despair, she sank helplessly to her knees and wept, while Theodore lowered himself beside her and pledged to strive until she could one day trust him completely, though to Lily his vow sounded hollow, as the very concept of trust between them felt irreparably shattered. Days later, she learned that several servants had been dismissed from the estate, and Charlotte reported that those who had fueled the bullying and rumors against her had been identified and removed under Theodore's orders, ensuring that anyone who slandered or mistreated the Duchess faced consequences. Instead of gratitude, Lily felt irritation, having intended to confront the offenders herself, while Charlotte, fists raised in fierce determination, insisted she had planned to exact revenge personally, revealing a surprisingly combative spirit that made Lily muse that her maid might have thrived as a knight or mercenary. Charlotte then nervously mentioned unsettling developments surrounding Hessen, noting that arms dealers had been seen frequenting his estate, and when Lily inquired about Owen, she was informed that a new mage had recently joined him, with the timing of the mage's influence aligning suspiciously with Theodore's head injury, and that this same mage had entered Hessen's service about a week before Theodore departed on his ill-fated journey. None of this surprised Lily. From the beginning, she had found it peculiar that a minor head wound resulted in selective memory loss, and she reasoned that her family would never passively observe the Valentino's resurgence without interference. Determined to uncover the truth behind her husband's accident, she resolved to examine records from that period and seek an audience with the commander of the Knights, believing him responsible for military documentation, though uncertainty about how to approach the matter briefly tempted her to abandon the effort until Charlotte firmly questioned how she could simply give up. That night, as Lily rested, a knock disturbed the quiet. Charlotte guarded the door and informed the visitor that the Duchess was asleep, but a calm voice identified himself as the servant Albert and requested that Lily receive a guest in Mrs. Seymour's absence, meaning the responsibility fell to her. Lifting her drowsy face from the pillow, Lily asked about the commotion and learned that Lady Adeline Albinus had arrived, prompting her to quickly compose herself and proceed down the grand corridor, while Charlotte perceptively offered to arrange a meeting with the Knight Commander, correctly deducing Lily's intentions and promising to deliver the message at once before hurrying off with an eager smile. Recognizing that Mrs. Seymour's absence granted her rare freedom to act without scrutiny, Lily prepared to seize the initiative, suspecting that Adeline's visit was motivated by circulating rumors and aware that the pink-haired young woman harbored warm feelings for Theodore, frequently visiting the castle under the guise of friendship and behaving with conspicuous familiarity toward him. Yet Lily had observed that Theodore lately showed her little more than mild irritation, treating her as a childish acquaintance rather than a romantic interest, a fact so evident that even Lily, once an outsider to his affections, could perceive it. She concluded that Adeline's persistence likely stemmed from this indifference, and a flicker of grim satisfaction arose within her at the thought of her rival's expression, should the rumors prove true, as she found herself curious about what distorted emotions might lie concealed beneath Adeline's gentle smile and courteous demeanor, acknowledging that while she herself possessed a temper shaped by a harsh environment, others were no less complex beneath their polished exteriors. And just as these thoughts settled in her mind, another knock sounded against her chamber door. When Lily entered the room, Adeline lifted her lips into a faint, carefully measured smile, though the warmth in it failed to reach her eyes. The greeting that followed was noticeably cold, wrapped in excessive formality that immediately set the tone of rivalry between them, prompting Lily to wonder why such distance was necessary and why she could not be addressed more simply. Yet before she could dwell on it, Adeline's expression subtly darkened at the sight of the opal necklace resting against Lily's collarbone, a deliberate choice the Duchess had made before this meeting. Fully aware that appearances carried messages of their own, Adeline smoothly remarked that she had merely been curious about Lily's recent well-being and had therefore decided to visit, adding with feigned casualness that she had heard Miss Seymour and Theodore had departed, and that she had hoped to see him, a remark that made Lily realize her rival was pretending ignorance despite clearly knowing more than she let on, and so Lily seated herself gracefully in a cushioned chair and responded with a polite smile that nothing particularly noteworthy had occurred of late. Accepting a cup of steaming tea from a bowing maid, and taking a cautious sip in an effort to ease the thick silence between them, Adeline explained that the tea had been imported from the Eastern continent as a precious gift, and inquired whether Lily found it to her taste. Its aroma indeed pleasant and refined, yet Adeline dismissed it as a trivial indulgence, considering Theodore's preference for tea over stronger drink, and confessed an eager anticipation for his reaction to it. a calculated attempt to display familiarity with Lily's husband in her very presence, which Lily recognized as a subtle assertion of intimacy meant to provoke jealousy, but she restrained herself, understanding that surrendering to anger would only provide Adeline the opportunity to twist the situation, perhaps even shed strategic tears and paint Lily as unreasonable, for Adeline possessed a talent for playing the victim while casting others as cruel. Shifting the conversation, Lily remarked upon the recent revival of trade with the Eastern continent, and Adeline quickly attributed this prosperity to the enterprise managed by the Delacroix family, proudly noting the establishment of a shorter trade route, while Lily reflected on Duke Delacroix's immense influence, his family's control over commerce throughout the kingdom and beyond, and the wealth that allowed him to sway both economic and political tides. His southern domain of Domac, thriving as a temperate trading hub of fertile lands unlike the harsher northern territories of Valentino. Yet that same southern prosperity had weakened its military resilience so that even a single crack in its defenses could spell disaster, leading Lily to consider that Valentino, long accustomed to hardship, might one day refuse aid. Adeline then recounted attending a recent gathering in the Cowan family's garden where she encountered Lady Rosalina, asking whether Lily had met her personally, to which Lily admitted only brief exchanges of greeting, privately concluding that Lady Delacroix's boundless energy made genuine compatibility unlikely. And Adeline added dreamily that even the Crown Prince had attended the event and mentioned an upcoming hunt to which the Duke and Duchess of Valentino would be invited as guests of honor, her sly smile betraying that she was testing Lily's knowledge. So Lily answered through restrained composure that the Crown Prince had indeed extended such an invitation. At that moment, a maid rushed in breathlessly to announce urgent news, and when Lily followed into the corridor, she learned that Mrs. Seymour had returned unexpectedly and was interrogating Charlotte, prompting Lily to hasten down the long hall despite the discomfort of her shoes, demanding to know why Annabella would question her maid, though details remained unclear. Upon reaching the hall, she found Charlotte cornered, pressured by workers insisting she confessed to stealing the Knight Commander's gold jewelry, accused because she had been seen entering his office shortly before the item vanished, and as Lily lingered unseen behind the doorway, she grasped that Charlotte had only been carrying out her instructions and that at least two among those present could just as easily be responsible. Fury tightening her jaw when Annabella ordered Charlotte onto a chair and raised a rod with the intent to whip her without proof, an act Lily could not permit, not only because Charlotte was innocent in her eyes but because losing her trusted personal servant would leave her isolated within the estate, precisely the vulnerability she suspected her mother-in-law sought after years of subtle isolation executed so skillfully that Theodore had never noticed. Convinced the incident was either an opportunistic strike or a planned scheme, Lily ordered that the commander of the Knights be summoned, startling those present, yet Annabella persisted in her harsh measures until Lily entered decisively, her expression stern and immovable, confronting the accusation that Charlotte had stolen the commander's jewelry and continued to deny it. Charlotte rushing to Lily's side in tears while Lily demanded evidence, at which point Serena was presented as a witness, who claimed she had been cleaning the office, saw Charlotte exit shortly before the jewelry was discovered missing, and concluded from timing alone that Charlotte was guilty. Lily's eyes flashed as she questioned whether a single witness sufficed, and suggested the possibility that the accuser herself could be the true thief seeking to frame another, reminding everyone that Charlotte earned a higher wage than ordinary maids and therefore lacked motive, a remark that caused Serena's hands to tremble and sweat to bead upon her skin. While Annabella attempted to silence Lily, yet Lily pressed further, asking whether all the maids had been searched and insisting that such a step should precede judgment, proposing that everyone present be examined, starting immediately, despite resistance and curiosity about why Charlotte had entered the office at all, to which Lily calmly revealed that Charlotte had done so under her direct order, making the notion of theft absurd. One by one the maids were called forward for inspection, and with shaking fingers Charlotte searched Serena's garments, drawing forth at last a gold ornament set with a sky-blue stone from within Serena's petticoat, provoking shocked cries as workers denounced her for theft and false accusation, additional suspicions surfacing about other missing trinkets such as Lucy's silver earrings, while Serena stood exposed and humiliated, and Lily ordered Aya to restrain her anger, reminding all present that wrongdoing cannot be concealed forever, and that the truth, once uncovered, reveals every hidden sin. Lily leaned over the trembling maid, her presence so intense that cold sweat gathered across the servant's face, and in that charged silence, the Duchess reflected on a truth she had long understood, that innocence had never saved the witch who was burned by inquisitors, because when fear and anger ruled the masses, people only searched for a sacrifice to blame, someone to carry the weight of their bitterness so they could feel cleansed. Knowing this, Lily reminded herself that victory belonged to those who understood their enemies as well as themselves, and rather than allowing her own anger to consume her, she resolved to kindle it into a controlled flame, one that would illuminate rather than destroy, a courage strengthened by the unwavering loyalty of Charlotte, her only true friend and ally within the suffocating walls of the castle, the one person she felt bound to protect at any cost, which was precisely why the malice directed at Charlotte ignited a fiercer fury in her heart than any insult aimed at herself. With cold precision, Lily revealed that the profit from selling the jewelry would never be sufficient to cover the lover's mounting debts, and as murmurs rippled through the gathered maids, she exposed the scheme piece by piece, explaining that Serena had stolen a valuable golden possession from the commander and orchestrated the entire affair, even dragging an accomplice into the plot in an attempt to frame Charlotte, while Aya, trembling and pale, insisted she did not understand such accusations and claimed innocence. Yet Lily calmly asserted that the intention had been to repay a lover's debts through the sale of stolen jewels, a plan made easier by sacrificing another rather than bearing the blame personally. And when Lily pressed further, asking whether she was correct, Annabella demanded confirmation from the accused, prompting the maid to collapse to her knees and confess that she had indeed been ordered to steal something precious from the commander, admitting she had only followed instructions because without the promised money, her younger siblings would starve. Her brother recently stricken with pneumonia and medicine far beyond her meager salary, and as Serena begged for forgiveness and attention shifted toward identifying the true instigator and the mysterious lover, Mrs. Seymour speculated whether it was the brown-haired groom, but Lily, observing the evasive glances, realized honesty would not come so easily, recalling how Aya had been engaged to a man chosen carefully due to shared origins with the previous Duchess, Mrs. Seymour having taken such personal interest in arranging the match, though the girl had harbored no affection for her intended and instead fallen for a traveling actor, a reckless attachment that might have faded harmlessly had it not deepened into something irreversible, for Lily knew Aya had recently discovered she carried the actor's child, having secretly consulted the village doctor in whispers that Lily had overheard, and with no path left open to her, the maid had resolved to pay the man's debts before fleeing. Tears spilling as Annabella coaxed the full confession from her before striking her sharply across the face in disgust, condemning her for bringing disgrace upon the Valentino household by consorting with a common performer and conceiving his child, declaring that Aya would be confined to her room indefinitely, and that Serena would share the same fate, the latter clinging desperately to Annabella's skirt until her hand was slapped away in contempt, and the other maids were ordered to escort the disgraced girls to their chambers and lock them inside, while the brown-haired woman who had witnessed it all stared in horror and muttered bitterly about Lily's unexpected knowledge of the servants' secrets, to which Lily responded with a composed smile that a mistress ought to know those who served under her roof, after which Annabella instructed that the stolen item be returned to the commander and inquired whether Lily had anything further to add, prompting the Duchess to issue a quiet but unmistakable warning that Mrs. Seymour was never again to lay hands on her people. A statement that drew stunned disbelief before Lily clarified that this was merely a caution and that next time she would not remain a silent observer, her gaze heavy with contempt as she hinted at how much she truly knew. A provocation that drove Annabella into a rage so intense she struck Lily across the face with full force, the blow leaving her cheek flushed and burning, and Lily's surprise was evident not at the pain but at how deeply her words had wounded the older woman's pride. While Theodore, who had witnessed the entire exchange, stood frozen in horror before rushing forward as tears welled in Lily's eyes and she turned toward him in fragile distress, and he confronted his aunt with shaking anger as she hastily insisted matters were not as they appeared. Yet Theodore's attention fixed on his wife's swelling face, and he urged that coal be applied immediately to reduce it, though Lily downplayed the injury as insignificant, which only fueled his fury as he demanded to know why Annabella had dared strike his wife, the older woman stammering that she had justification. But Theodore reminded her sternly that under no circumstance was it acceptable to raise a hand against Lady Valentina, regardless of household hierarchy, expressing sincere hope that such an incident would never be repeated, and making it clear that he did not issue empty warnings. Though Lily understood the delicate balance of influence within the castle and recognized why her husband stopped short of harsher punishment, as Annabella pleaded to explain herself further, but Theodore refused to entertain it, declaring that he would be leaving with his wife, and thus he escorted Lily away while Mrs. Seymour remained behind, watching her nephew depart with an expression shadowed by resentment and thwarted authority. After carefully examining the wounds on Lily's cheek, the physician studied the faint swelling and discoloration with professional concern and inquired about the intensity of her pain, prompting the blonde Duchess to instinctively raise her hand to partially conceal her face as she calmly insisted that she was fine, despite the obvious injury. The brown-haired attendant standing nearby anxiously questioned whether ice should be applied, and Jane methodically explained that once the prescribed medicine began to take effect, a compress ought to be maintained for 30 minutes before bedtime, further clarifying that the treatment would not be necessary the following day, though she firmly added that for the moment her ladyship must refrain from taking any medications beyond those she had personally authorized, a statement that caused Theodore's expression to darken so abruptly that Lily, watching her husband's features tighten in shadow, could not comprehend why his face had twisted with such intensity. At that moment, the door opened sharply and a maid entering the room unexpectedly locked eyes with the brunette commander-in-chief, whose embarrassment was evident as Charlotte, with a polite smile, retrieved a small gold medal from her pocket and handed it to him, prompting his awkward gratitude for her assistance before he excused himself, claiming urgent matters required his attention. Yet before he departed, Charlotte heard Theodore offer sincere thanks for her diligence and hard work, praise so unexpected that it made her heart race uncontrollably. After which Theodore gently suggested that Lily should return to her chambers to rest and assured everyone that he would handle the remaining concerns, while Lily, lowering her gaze, informed him that Lady Albinus was waiting in the living room and asked that her apologies be conveyed, since she felt unwell and had been forced to retire early. Though Theodore dismissed any worry about the guest and urged his wife to focus solely on her recovery, wishing her proper rest before leaving the room. Once he was gone, the maid hurried to Lily's side with anxious concern about her cheek, and Lily, sinking onto the softness of her bed, again maintained that she was fine and requested only a cup of hot tea, which soon arrived steaming and fragrant before her, as Charlotte explained in a subdued tone that she had waited in the commander's office for 10 minutes, but he had not returned, leading her to assume that he had urgently accompanied Theodore back to the castle and that perhaps he had asked her to wait first before being delayed by unforeseen duties. Yet Lily's thoughts moved beyond this simple explanation, as she reasoned that the commander's affairs must have taken longer than expected, and that during this absence the theft had occurred, becoming increasingly certain that Serena and Aya had slipped into the office, devised a plan upon noticing Charlotte's presence, and committed the crime before the commander ever returned. And she felt convinced that had Jenna not rushed in with the alarming news, Mrs. Seymour might have punished Charlotte severely without evidence, a possibility that made Lily's blood boil at the mere thought of such unjust cruelty. Seeking to lighten the atmosphere, Charlotte expressed gratitude and mentioned her intention to visit the garden to gather flowers, believing fresh blossoms might lift her lady's spirits, and soon bright yellow flowers, radiant like fragments of sunlight, adorned a small table as delicate petals drifted gently onto its surface, creating a tranquil contrast to the turmoil that had preceded it. Later, Lily questioned the commander-in-chief about whether he had observed anything suspicious on the day Theodore lost his memory, and he admitted that numerous monsters had burst forth from a crack that day, an event chaotic enough to obscure other details, after which the atmosphere shifted as he nervously asked Charlotte whether she might consider taking a walk with him the following week, revealing feelings that Lily had long suspected since she had noticed from the beginning that the commander of the Knights harbored affection for the maid. Yet Charlotte declined with a respectful bow, explaining that her responsibilities required her constant presence beside her mistress, a refusal that left the commander visibly disheartened while a faint knowing smile touched Lily's lips. Despite this small amusement, the Duchess remained wary because rumors had begun circulating throughout the castle, claiming that Mrs. Seymour had struck her, and Lily felt certain that someone had secretly witnessed the incident and spread the tale. Though Aya had already been expelled from the castle and Serena placed on probation, and Lily even suggested that Theodore should not punish Serena too harshly since she had been influenced by Aya's manipulation. When asked whether she intended to respond to Albus's letter, Lily calmly stated that a reply was unnecessary because they would soon meet in person, instead requesting another pink feather to complete her attire, prompting Charlotte to bustle about attentively until she carefully secured the feather into her mistress's hat and nervously inquired whether anything else was required, to which Lily responded that everything was sufficient and that it was time to depart. As they prepared to leave, workers respectfully bowed in farewell, and Lily allowed herself a subtle smirk at the ironic thought that Theodore would likely soon regain full clarity of mind and once again alter his attitude toward her. Realizing with sober acceptance that his recent favor might not endure, yet she carried herself with composed dignity as she walked at a measured pace through the opulent garden accompanied by her friend, and there, amid manicured greenery and blooming paths, Theodore approached with a charming smile, bowed courteously, offered his assistance to Lily, and expressed regret for his lateness, closing the sequence with a gesture that blended formality, lingering tension, and the fragile tenderness of a relationship still shadowed by uncertainty.
Please support us by subscribing to our Patreon. The link is in the About section of our channel.